Legal Live on your radio, man. Here we go again, hour number 2 on this Tuesday, and it's just it's just news. We got all these. We've talked a lot in the first hour about the congressional resignations. Let me pivot a little bit. We can go back to some of that because, for one, it's just goofy and amusing, but it's also disgusting. So we'll keep. If anything else develops on that stuff, we'll let you know. But right now, we're looking at the close of the markets. It was a pretty good day, and if you watch the markets in terms of potential developments out of the situation in Iran with the energy, with the Strait. Things are looking up again today. The Dow was up 317 points. NASDAQ up 455. That was a huge percentage for them today, almost 2% on the NASDAQ. We also had some pretty good inflation news and economic news to go with it. Those would be the normal things that would move the markets. But today it's been, will there be more peace talks with the Iran situation? Will the Strait finally continue to be open? It's slowly opening back up because we're in charge now. We moved in. We've secured the Strait. We're blockading the Iranian boats, letting other people through. Confidence is growing. Those numbers are building, and that's all positive for the energy markets. The other thing to know here, real quick, is that the reason we didn't get an oil shock, this wasn't a shock. This was a run up for a few days. Remember, it's been up and down. It's been in the 90s. It's been back close to 120. It comes back down. There were times during both Obama and Biden where it went up more than that just because they were attacking the whole industry. What's funny to me now is watch Democrats try to use the price of oil as a political talking point, and they were the ones that absolutely had the whole energy sector under attack with their green fantasy nonsense. I mean, these people tried to put these folks out of business, and you have to walk and ride a bicycle and a donkey or ride power your car on unicorn dreams and mouse farts and all that. You notice how quiet they are about that all of a sudden? What happened to the death and doom of the climate change cult? Where'd all that go? I tell you what happened. AI happened. They understand, a lot of these corporate schmucks that were paying for all that propaganda understand that the race to be dominant in this new technology that could either kill us all or change everything for the positive about the way we live is going to require massive amounts of electricity, and nobody has time for that anymore. Consumers didn't want the cars. They weren't as reliable as they should have been because it was being forced. You know, electric cars have a future. There'll be a time when they make sense. Tesla is probably doing the best job of making cool vehicles that are reliable enough at a price point people can afford, and all that stuff will happen naturally, but you can't force it just because Obama wants it. That was folly, and that's why we lost so much money on that stupid stuff. But here's the world again, reliant on natural gas and energy, and the European nations are having to go back and refire up natural gas plants and some of their old coal plants after they chased the same stupidity and made themselves super vulnerable to these world events, the Ukraine situation, and of course now with Iran. But to go back to it, the Iranians just woefully made a huge tactical error claiming they could control the Strait when they couldn't and blackmailing the world like they did. And what I was going to say about the oil price is it appears to me, and some of the analysts I've been reading lately, is the oil markets have now priced in the disruption of the Strait. And there have been alternative routes. You saw the graphics of all the ships coming to the United States. That's going to be a huge boon for our economy. And I'm telling you, when these ships that have already filled up, that have been sitting around with oil that can't move right now, when they hit the markets, that's going to create a supply, an oversupply in some cases. And depending on how demand is going in the moment, demand already goes down when the price goes up. People just start thinking more intentionally, I guess, about the trips they take. I did that today. I chose one vehicle with a little better mileage over the other just to make a little short trip. So you got to do those things, and people do those things. So all this is going to start evening out quicker, I think, sooner rather than later. And we'll see what tomorrow brings. But it was a good day on both the oil price, which got down to $91. It dropped almost $8 today in one day just because of the news coming out of the Strait and the potential for more talks. And we'll see where that goes as we head toward yet another deadline with these maniacs that are left running that country, whoever they are. All right, so there's that. Let's see. Let me talk to you about work trucks, and I want to get on these phones. If you need a business vehicle or a get-it-done vehicle, one that's stripped down and commercial-based and will just help you get from point A to point B, it is Work Trucks. TRUX. They're downtown Birmingham. Just went by there Saturday when I went over to Birmingham Broker. I always take a look. I crane my neck around and look and see what they got on the lot. They had one of those big boom trucks with the lift on it. They had all these configurations. They usually have some crane truck with a lift on it. And then your standard service body vans and trucks and dualies and plain old pickup trucks and box trucks. It's everything to keep your business moving or to move your stuff or your people around and do so efficiently. With a pre-owned vehicle that's already taken the depreciation hit, they'll help you with financing. They can help you with all that stuff. They'll take your trade in. This is a way for you not to waste time trying to track these things down to keep your business going. You can focus on bringing money in and doing what you do, doing your thing, bro, and let Work Trucks handle your truck. TRUX, WorkTrucksLLC.com, WorkTrucksLLC.com. All right, let's hit these phones. 545 if you're a newbie, get on in. We take all comers. 545-9950 if you want to get on the radio show. Jan is in T-Town. What's up, Jan?
Hey, Leland, man, you are on your soapbox today.
I get that way sometimes.
I had to give you a laugh. Way back when in your program, you were talking about getting all these spam calls and all.
Yeah.
Well, while you're talking about that, I thought my phone was ringing. I'm driving down the road, and I'm trying to figure out where the devil my phone is, and then finally you mentioned it's your phone. But I couldn't find a place to pull over to see who was calling me.
Somebody else sent me a message and said that. I guess we all have those generic ringtones.
I'm about to wreck my car.
I'm sorry. I apologize to the audience. It was one of those damn spammers. And so the audio I was playing was on a computer connected to, I guess it takes phone calls too. So it came through my whole system at the same time. And I'm sorry.
Well, and then you got on to the geriatric chronicles, not geriatric. I'm thinking of, oh, good God, the male hormone, testosterone.
Testosterone
Chronicles.
Yeah.
Testosterone Chronicles. That's what I'm going to name that segment of your show.
Okay, that works. Yep. You said something about barnacles, and that made me think about Mitch McConnell as well. So.
Okay, I was thinking about something else, but okay. All right. Anyhow, you have a good afternoon.
All right, you too. There's Dan having a little fun. Here's Jeff in Indiana. We'll go to the next call. Jeff, what's up, buddy?
Come on, Leland. Everybody knows that McConnell's a turtle, not a barnacle.
Well, he is, but I'm saying he's got barnacles on him. He's got barnacles hanging off of him. He's been there too long. He's like a boat that sat in the water too long.
Yeah, he's been around way too long for my boat.
Yep.
But, you know, you was talking about this, if the liberals are screaming about high gas prices and everything, well, they should be praising Trump right now because that would be driving people to EVs and getting rid of the oil market, just like the plan was under Biden.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Biden, both of them absolutely said they were going to drive coal out of business. Trump, I mean, I remember Obama sitting there sanctimoniously saying, we're just going to make it too expensive to build a coal plant. And look, West Virginia will be Republican for the next 100 years now. So screw off.
Yeah. But what I was wanting to do is on the Eric Swalwell.
Yeah.
You know, I think he should be examined and tried for treason if he did what I think he did, because he was with Fang Fang from I think 2011 to 2015 under the Obama administration, which when they found out that she was a spy and they tipped him off.
Yep.
It's awful funny that she all of a sudden disappeared. So I wonder how she knew that they already had outed her.
Well, she took off to China. They faked an investigation into it, sort of cleared him, and he got cockier after that. I guess he felt untouchable because it was the Biden DOJ and Justice Department that just looked right past it. Nancy Pelosi, if I remember right, was still Speaker. And so they couldn't handle. In fact, they promoted this guy. They left him on the Intelligence Committee. And there was some compromise there. Put it this way. Y'all seen pictures of Fang Fang. She just plain old Fang Fang. I don't know how they would rate her in China as far as her attractiveness, but no woman wants to willingly give it up to Swalwell. She had something in if there's ever been a case of a honeypot where you know what she was after intelligence from this fool. Probably got it. We don't know that for sure, but there needs to be a reopening of that case for sure.
Exactly. Yeah, that's why I say that. And if he's the one who tipped her off, I think he wanted to get rid of her real quick because if he gave her some information and everything, he would be culpable for that.
He might have.
And I'm sure he did. She stayed with him for several years. Pillow talk is pretty cheap.
Ugh, I don't even want to picture it. You think he called her one day and said, "Hey, I got a tip for you," and she goes, "Oh no, not again," and then she left the country. Who knows? I'm kidding.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Yeah,
Thanks,
but like I say, somebody had to tip her off that she was was found out, because as soon as they tipped him off that she was a spy, she disappeared. And so I wonder how she found that information out. So
who knows?
I'm sure that he's the one who tipped her off, and for good reason, like I say, because she probably had a lot. If she would have been debriefed, I'm sure he would have been in a lot more hot water than what he is now.
Well, I think he's in more hot water than he ever realized, and some of that stuff could come back up, and we'll see if they decide to pursue it. Because again, it's 2 for 2. The Democrats have got 2 going down, and so do the Republicans. So the balance of Congress doesn't change, and so the Republicans, I don't know if they're going to have any integrity about this stuff. They need to. This is national security potentially that we're talking about. So Jeff, I appreciate the call, man. Good stuff there. AJ, did you hear my tip joke? I made a tip joke. Anyway,
I heard that.
I did. It was bad. Ox Foundation Solutions. I was following one of their trucks this morning. I was out bright and early going to meet a buddy for breakfast, and I got behind this Ox truck. I think I was driving too close to him because he had to pull over. But we were on some back roads, and I thought, those guys are out early this morning getting after it. And that's the Ox I've been telling you about for years now here in the show. They're just the best. They arrive on time. They've got the best trained techs, good-looking vehicles, the proper uniforms, all the tools and training to come and solve your foundation issues. Man, you got a wet basement, you got a musty, moldy crawl space, any of these things that are coming into your life through your home, let them help you with that. Just cracks in the cinder blocks. Sometimes you'll get that stair step crack and it bothers you. You may not even have water coming in. They can handle little subtle projects like that, all the way to leveling your whole house, and then getting the water out. And later, when we get into the summer, we really start having more and more of a problem with mold removal and getting that stuff. That is such a nightmare. You cannot do it yourself. Some people try to do that yourself. If you don't get it all and it's not complete and you don't have the right technology to do it, it comes back. It comes back with a vengeance. Let the pros remove the mold and let Ox handle the encapsulation as well. And then your house is good. Then you're not breathing that dirty, nasty, stanky funk air in your house. It's oxstrong.com. Get them over there and have them take a look if you're suspicious. oxstrong.com. Back here in just a minute. All American Metals bringing you this segment. Man, I do appreciate them. And I get more inquiries. I think spring came around, the weather got warm. People are saying, tell me about the building stuff. And anytime anybody's at my property, I had a guy over the other day buying a tractor from me. He's just looking at my barn. My man David, I hope he's listening today. He's a old listener that became a new listener again. Gave me a nice compliment on the barn. It's nice to have a place to put your stuff. Every guy relates. Sometimes, fellas, it's just nice to have my own space where I can go to sometimes and just have my quiet time. You can't beat the value of steel, no matter if you're building a residential project or if you're adding on commercially or building your first commercial project, warehousing, retail stuff. All American does all of this stuff. And the materials are here in market. They produce the components themselves. They make the framing. They make the steel, all the trusses. They bend their own sheet steel. They bring those big rolls in, run them through to your pattern and to your color at the length you need and produce all that metal. On the shelf, they've got the screws and the bolts and the insulation packages and all that comes with it. The design team, that's where you start in the beginning. And so because it's turnkey, you're not counting on the supply chain, other people. They're just going to design your building, work with you, get you your plans. Then you go, if you need financing or zoning or approvals, whatever, get that done. And then boom, let them get that building delivered to you. Their turnaround is faster. Their price is better. Their product is superior. And these are great folks to work with. I'd rather do business with good local folks. It's aa-metal.com. No matter what you're building, a big commercial building or something like I have, just a basic pole barn to put your stuff in. It's aa-metal.com. Y'all reach out to them over in the Bessemer Hueytown area and let them get you going on your project in 2026. All right, let's go back to the phones. I got Alan over here in Nectar. What's up, Alan? How you doing, man?
Hey, Leland, how you doing? Am I correct? I thought I saw where Virginia today said that they were going to give their electoral college votes to whoever won the popular vote in the country.
I don't know. Virginia's doing some kooky stuff with that new governor. They got a commie for a governor now who sort of played the moderate, got herself elected, and she is running over people in Virginia right now, causing a mess. I don't know specifics of that.
Yeah, you might have checked it out. I can't believe that would be legal, but there wouldn't be no sense in voting in Virginia if that was the case.
True. Just let the rest of the country vote. And then here's the Democrats believe they'll always have an advantage in the popular vote. And here's why a Democrat would think that's a good idea, because they can cheat in California and put a bunch of illegal immigrants in their rolls, add them to the whole pot. So let's say we're having an ID here in Alabama. We're not as big a state, but say all the southern states collectively are the same size at some point as California, but we have integrity in our process, and we have, ID, and we don't allow in the smell and stuff. They can pad the vote in the blue states. And so if it's based on the popular vote, they're always going to have an advantage to add more votes into the system because they want to cheat. And so that's the way that works. I think it's an affront to the Virginians. But here's the thing, Alan. States are allowed to decide how they want to set up voting in their own states. Right now, Congress is looking at the SAVE Act to put some minimum requirements on that to protect the civil rights among the states. In other words, if California cheats, that affects us. So I think that's fair. But in the end, the way our Constitution's set up, a sovereign state can decide how they want to do their electors really any way they want to.
All right, brother. Good luck to you.
All right, Alan. There's Alan tonight talking about Virginia. Boy, it is crazy. We haven't had time. They've had a crime outbreak with their soft on crime approach already. This woman's barely been in office for 5 minutes. It's just it's something else. Let's talk about gas prices real quick. I was going to save this for next segment, but my buddy Todd reached out and said that he noticed a drop. I haven't noticed that yet because this morning I was just out on an interstate run right back home. And I just know where I filled up, and it's been about the same for diesel. Diesel and gas are separated by, in some cases, a whole $1 a gallon. But for people buying gas, and because I've been running around in my truck, I hadn't paid attention to gas. But Todd told me that I think it was somewhere down around Pelham that he saw a 20-cent drop overnight at one of the gas stations. Now, here's what I'm saying with that: you're not gonna get a precipitous drop. Just because the futures go down. It's sad, but it's not as disproportional. When you buy, let me see, how much time do I have? trying to explain the oil markets, even trying to understand them, can be complicated. It's a worldwide commodity, so the barrel price is worldwide, and we've gone through this over and over, especially since this situation started with Iran. So it doesn't matter if there's disruption in the world, the whole world, it's like a daily auction for the barrel of oil. And there's a contract date and a delivery date on these futures, right? So the oil brokers, for lack of a better term, will be in the market bidding on the future oil that's going to come out of the ground. And on this day, they agreed they'll pay this much for this delivery out in the future. Gas now, and then that oil has to be shipped either into a country, let's just say ours, has to be sent to the refineries. That's a huge part of the cost for them to refine it out, separate gas from diesel, from the other stuff that comes from a barrel of oil. And then it has to be put on other trucks or delivered to the gas stations. And then within that market, there's actually little submarkets at each intersection. You ever notice that? The gas stations that are across the street from each other compete. And you can drive across town and it'll be different, but they're all getting deliveries kind of from the same source. That's the economics of them running their business. They have to have enough money and cash on hand to pay for the next truck that comes to fill them up. And so they have to anticipate those future trucks are going to cost more. So they'll jack their price up so that they have enough money to pay to refill their underground tanks. So you and I can just roll up in there and fuel up our cars. So it kind of works its way backwards toward us. Then when the price goes down, you almost have to wait for that cheaper oil to hit the market, go through the refinery process, be delivered according to the lower contract, and work its way where the gas station now is going to be paying less when that truck shows up. So there's a huge time delay for it to work its way in. So even though we're down we're down $8 a barrel today. If it holds and continues to drop, you'll slowly, again, because we constantly consume it, start to see these prices get back a little bit more into normal range. All right, back here in just a minute, Leland Live. Y'all stay tuned. All right, it's 3:34. Every time I get ready to talk about Steve over at Alabama Gold Refinery, for the most part, I'll remember to look up the price that day. And today we're at about 48 and change on an ounce of gold. That's going back up. It had gotten down to 44. We've seen it as high as 54. So right now the price is in between the recent low and the recent high. I still think it's a good buying opportunity. You don't really, though, buy gold to do day-to-day speculation. A lot of people buy it to store wealth because it's safe, and it usually doesn't go in reverse, and it may fluctuate from time to time, but it holds its value against everything that happens in economies. If you really want to understand that and get a much better explanation than that, y'all just reach out to Steve over at Alabama Gold Refinery, and he'll be happy to talk to you about it. He's the man. He understands the stuff. He's real passionate about it too, so he'll take you back to the Bible days and talk about the way gold has always performed. It's the same thing with the other metals, with silver and platinum. They will buy from you. They will sell to you. They will trade with you. It's just a nice exchange to help you and incentivize you to start moving some of your wealth into these precious metals under your control, secure them the way you want to. And in a crisis, this is not some digital thing or some certificate somebody's holding for you in Switzerland. It's in your hand. It's in your possession, and you can always use it the way people use gold in tough times. It's great to have a place that's secure and safe and a good place to go visit. It's AGR, AlabamaGoldRefinery.com, in Homewood on 29th, across from the Regions Bank, AlabamaGoldRefinery.com. All right, things in the news. Let me flip over here. I was looking at so many different things. The caller that called about what they're doing in Virginia, indeed, I found that story, and this is amazing. Apparently, it has outraged people in Virginia, and Virginia's kind of hard to reckon. It moved into a purple state. To me, it's like Georgia. There's a big population center in the northern part of Virginia. These are largely federal workers and government workers and people that are associated with the government itself, and they tend to vote Democrat. Then you got the more rural, very picturesque, beautiful parts of that state that tend to vote Republican. Atlanta's like that. Atlanta's so big that it dominates some of the politics of Georgia, but the rest of the state is it's a completely different culture than what's going on in Atlanta, and people vote accordingly. So the population centers in Virginia, and indeed all these new immigrants, have voted for this lunatic Abigail Spanberger, who is just an embarrassment to the rest of the state. And indeed, she signed something called HB 965. She just signed it into law, and I thought maybe they were just debating it, but it made it through the legislative process. And so it basically renders, the way the law reads is it renders all the presidential voting of the state of Virginia null and void. So let's just be hypothetical. If Virginia voted for Republican and the rest of the country voted for a Democrat, then all of Virginia's electoral votes go to the Democrat. They would base the outcome of their apportionment of their electoral allocation to the national popular vote winner. Now, it's not just an affront to Virginians. Here's the danger in it for the rest of us. This is not our system. We were never, our founders, if you have any understanding of the founding, and as I go through my day and I take calls and I interact with people, I understand how civics education somewhere in the last 30 years just fell off the cliff. We've got people in this country that just don't know the fundamentals of the founding and what the Constitution really, the core of the philosophy of why we are the nation that we are. And they're morally equivalent. We might as well be Egypt or Uganda or Chile. We're not at all. We're unique in the history of the world, which is why we're as free and powerful as we have been for 250 years. Now, our founders didn't believe it would last, but the one thing they understood was decentralized power. And that concept has escaped generations of people now. And so decentralized power, and most of you know this, and I'm not trying to talk down or go back through stuff you already know, but when the founders, they fought this revolution against an empire, a superpower. Granted, they were across the ocean, and they did it with farmers, and they had to miracles took place for them to actually win this battle. And they won the revolution 250 years ago and then didn't know what to do with it. We started off with this Articles of Confederation, and it didn't work. And so they had to get a constitutional convention to sit down and hammer out, well, what kind of country are we going to be? I mean, they didn't even know what they wanted to name it. That's how new it was just 250 years ago. And so they were wise and educated people, and they studied history. And what they studied was, how do civilizations fail? So they studied all the recent empires, what eventually gets to them, particularly the Romans. I actually geeked out and bought the whole Gibbon's book series on the fall of Rome that was written in the 1700s that our founders actually read to understand Rome. It's still considered, even though it's old, the definitive work on Rome. So they studied Rome, and they studied why it eventually fell apart from an empire status. They studied the Persians, the Turks, Ottomans, all these empires in history, and found what was in common with them. And it was, almost in every case, it was too much power in the hands of too few. So they sat down and said, we need to devise a government. Again, they drew on their experience with British common law for sure, because that was the default. That was the law that was already here. But they didn't want a king, and they didn't want to be told how to worship. They wanted to be able to defend themselves in a brand new country that was still largely rural. You had still conflicts with the Native Americans going on. The French were still snooping around. The British could show back up any day, and they wanted to be able to live their lives accordingly. You had completely different economies, a financial center economy. We weren't industrialized yet, an agricultural economy in the South, which led to the slave arguments that from day one were part of this country's history. They were arguing about half wanted to get rid of that institution, but they were trying to hold this loose knit thing together. So they came up with a concept of sovereign states so that power couldn't be centralized in Washington. And this is where I'll wrap back to Virginia. And then they came up, even those states could check each other with equal representation in the Senate, but then representation based on population in the states. And the way we elected a president was not supposed to be by a popular vote, because if it was, just like today, two states could have dominated the entire presidency and the rest wouldn't have mattered. Alabama wasn't a state yet. We were technically part of Georgia. It was not even a territory. And so the rural states, the less populated states, it wouldn't have mattered what they voted for. Because in a popular vote, at the time, I believe the two most populous states were New York, Pennsylvania, the three were New York, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. And so, and largely these people lived along the coast, and they didn't want one state to tell the rest of so they devised this electoral college. So it'd be a representative form of government, a representative election. So when you and I go to the polls, we don't vote directly. A lot of people get this wrong. We don't vote directly for the president. We vote in our state, and every state does this, to have our electors go and represent our wishes in the electoral college. So we vote as a state to have our state represented. And then, of course, we have a popular vote here inside the state. But then that vote sends those electors to the electoral college. And, of course, you need 270 to win nowadays with all the electoral votes that are allocated. So back to the discussion. By giving that up and trying to shove a popular vote in, this is Virginia surrendering and allowing the states that cheat. This is what the Democrats are after. Just as I surmised when our caller called in about this, that states that want to do an end run. This is why the SAVE Act is so important. If any state can cheat, the whole country gets cheated. Especially if we go to this in the blue states with this silly, crazy, translucent, doughy looking woman. This pasty-faced troll of a governor is going to, I'm telling you, I think they're going to try to impeach her. The only good thing is that Virginia has a one-term limit. You get one and done in Virginia. You get 4 years and you're gone. And that's why Youngkin's gone. And I think you can come back and run again, but you can't run consecutive terms. And we need that anyway. So, by doing this, she is giving up Virginia's right to have a say other than in the popular vote. In other words, Virginia gets a piece of the popular vote, but the will of that state's not specifically represented as to how the people that live there want the election to go. And that's an abomination. And it hands over power to these large states, which is the antithesis of what the founders wanted. They didn't want big, heavily populated states. The whole country would be decided by California, New York, New Jersey, probably Texas and Florida. And that would be who dominates the national discussion. Alabama's just tiny compared to those those population margins, especially in terms of turnout. And then you could add us and Mississippi and Georgia all together, and we're not even close to the representation that a state like California would have, where we've seen they've run immigrants in, giving them driver's license. Hell, they're giving them free money to set up fake hospices and buy Lambos while you're trying to put together enough budget to make peanut butter sandwiches for your kids. They're handing out government money that's siphoned off the federal government, all these scandals that are breaking out over there, and they'll give digits to anybody that shows up, especially if they are illegal immigrants. They'll give them driver's license, social security numbers. They'll issue all of these things from the state of California, and they damn sure will pack the vote totals and try to swing the whole country if given the power to do it. And she just gave in to that for the people of Virginia. That's how partisan and stupid this woman is. Listen, she pretended to be a moderate and saying that she would work with all sides, and she just wants people to come together. Don't they all say that? And in the end, she has these same terrible ideas that every other Democrat has. The main reason I oppose that party is not just because the Republicans, what are you going to do? You got to vote for them to keep from being run over by these people. It's because of their insatiable desire to control the rest of this country and your lives, your decisions, what you buy, how much money you can keep of your own. They will never be satisfied on taxes. Look at Mondami. They're thieves at their core. They are driven by envy, and they want to take from other people and control what they can do, what they can say. They are back to my lecture, their ideology is central government. Now let's go back to the founders and what we just talked about. It was complete opposite. The founders did not want this. They wanted as much of the power to be diffused down locally as possible. They left it to the states. They left it to us. Even within what's left of the federal system, they had 3 different branches divided all up that could check each other. In the state systems, those are all divided against each other. That's the checks and balances. Now, this is just the presidential election that we're talking about, but here's what I fear. I fear that this is a trend, and other Democrats are going to try to shift to this model going forward, because they know in the next census they're going to lose electoral votes in some of their blue states because people are fleeing these policies, and they're going to lose census votes and representation in Congress. So they are preemptively trying to set up a system where they can still control the country with a handful of states, and the whole representative model goes out the window. Wait till they start trying to pack the courts. These people are dangerous to the founding principles of this country, period. And they always have been. They've always wanted to change it because there's too much freedom for us. That's why they'll say stupid stuff like, oh, the Constitution's a living, breathing document. It doesn't have to mean what it says it means. It can mean what we want it to mean right now, depending on the emotions that we're having in the moment. Not true, and it's never going to be true, and we will die on this hill. This woman is the face of a lot of bad ideas, and I hope they're throwing rocks in the streets and raising hell about this for her selling them out this way. Well, her and the whole damn legislature. What a mess. All right, the Knowles Group. Now, I swear I'm going to get back on these calls. Tom, you hang on. We'll come to you next. That's my man, Danny Knowles. Boy, their office has been busy lately, watching everything, talking to their clients. Once they've got long-term clients, Danny was telling me this when I visited with them a couple of weeks ago. The long-term clients that have learned to trust their system, they don't get freaked out either. I told Danny, I said, man, is your phone ringing off the hook when the market gets volatile? The day we were there, it came up 1,100 points. He goes, no, he said, after time, people learn that they can trust our system, and it usually works out, so they don't get panicky either. Same thing when they're big up days or big down days. If you're playing the averages and the trends in the long-term strategy, you're in a lot better shape. But how to do that and where to put those assets to stay on that line, and how to stay in that center lane and move your money forward and get that return, that's where their expertise comes in. I can't understand that, but I can tell you this, Danny and I have known each other since we were kids. Man, we grew up together, and all these years later, here we are basically in business together. I'm telling you, he's a good guy. He always has been a straight shooter. We'll just tell you what you want to hear, whether you want to hear it or not. And that's what you need with a financial advisor, is the truth. It's the Knowles Group. Y'all go see them and see if it's a fit, see if you want to put your money with them. It's up to you to decide, but I'm making an introduction to a lifelong friend that I think will give you their best advice. It's theknowlesgroup.com, N-O-L-E-S, theknowlesgroup.com. Back in a minute. All right, 352 Legal Nye, Birmingham Broker, bhambroker.com. There are really two businesses down there. There's the Birmingham Brokerage, where I'm trying to get you to take all your cars and get those sold. And then, of course, there's BB Electric Moto, those electric motorcycles. We got to go see all that, as they did a formal opening of BB Electric on Saturday. Same location, just kind of one wing of the building versus the other. Y'all, Craig and Keith are just great guys, and they've got a cool little enterprise going down there. So take your cars to them and let them broker those things out in the world and get you top dollar. And when you're not doing that, man, think about Christmas. We're not too far out. These are cool for kids or anybody in your family. Maybe a group y'all want to. Apparently, Craig has a riding club on Thursday night. And one of the guys in the club is like, you got to come out and ride with us. I may do that sometime. It's bhambroker.com. Y'all reach out to him and go see these cool bikes, or just have them handle your car and do the math and do all the work, and you get a bigger check out of it. All of it makes sense to me. bhambroker.com, bhambroker.com. All right, back to the phones. Here we go. Tom is in Calera. What's up, Tom? Is Tom still there, AJ?
I have him up, but I guess he
I hear
is
that.
not there.
I hear that familiar hiss when we have a caller on the line and some people doze off. I get to ranting. Says he want to call about Turning Point USA. I know they've got an event today.
Well, he was talking about that protest that happened. And
what happened?
So I think there was a reporter at a university, and one of the protesters, they started attacking her.
Yeah, I saw the video of that. I don't know the details. It was in Minnesota, of course.
Yeah.
Who we totally should offshore that whole part of Minnesota to Canada. I'm for it. Anybody show of hands? okay, we took a vote. Let's get rid of Minnesota. Maybe not the whole state, but I would love to trade Alberta for Minnesota. These are much better people. But anyway, so yeah, I saw some reporter getting beat up. So what's the circumstance? She was there to cover something that was going on, and they typically
I don't know the full story about it, but basically she was out there and basically was started getting attacked from some of the protesters out there.
Well, I haven't seen any details on that. If we get some, I'll try to share them with you. I've been watching, I think JD Vance, he's speaking to a Turning Point USA event somewhere this afternoon. This is in the midst of these ongoing talks where Iran wants to get back to the table because they realize they've miscalculated greatly and they just don't have any leverage anymore. The only leverage they had just disappeared right in front of the whole world, and that's the threat of the Strait. Now they're adding to more threats. They want to get back to the table. I don't know that Vance is going to lead that delegation next time. He went over to Pakistan, as you know, this weekend, put in 21 hours, walked away. After 21 hours, we can say we did our due diligence of these people being the same people. They've always been just ridiculous and out of touch with the rest of the planet. And he came back here, gave a nice wrap-up of the thing back here in the States. He's going to Turning Point this afternoon. So I don't know if any potential future delegation will include him, whether he'll be on the plane back at the table with the same players, or if they're going to shake up the negotiators themselves. And, of course, Witkoff and gang are the two lead negotiators that have been discussed and part of all this stuff. Trump just trusts them all the way back to the tariff negotiation days because of the exemplary way they were able to handle a lot of that stuff. So, man, we're after it. Foot on the gas. We got the ball. We keep the ball. We keep pressing and going downfield. And this is another situation that appears is not over. And there's still a measure of unpredictability to it. But just like I described earlier in the hour, the markets have started to price in the disruption. They're calmer. They're not as volatile. The stocks are going up. Oil's coming down slowly. It's never going to come straight down. It'll go up and down, but the averages and the trends are all good today with the close of the markets. The fundamentals, believe it or not, on economics, despite this 44 days now of action in the Middle East, the fundamentals, the consumer price index, the inflation indexes are all beating expectations. And think about this, this is without a proper interest rate adjustment that we so desperately need to free up money in our economy to make things more fluid. That means more home transactions. That means more commerce all around because we've got a hyper political Fed chairman for a few more weeks until that can get adjusted, but that's soon to come. So I think there's much reason to believe this conflict gets wrapped up. Oil prices start to regulate as hopefully these are the early signs of that. We get this interest rate adjustment here in a few weeks. I mean, so many folks are worried about trying to calculate the midterms based on economic conditions, which you need to do. People need to feel good about where things are going. Consumer confidence was good, and then it's now getting a little shaky because of just uncertainty about war. But, man, you get into summer, and if these prices get back to normal, rates come down a half point, the hostility there is over, we're in better shape unless Trump decides to pull another big, bold move and take on something else. I think he was, in a lot of ways, the timing was pretty good overall. If you're going to have to do the hard lifting, to wait much longer would have been dangerous. Knock it out, get it over with, win decisively, and then come home, and we're on that path. I said it yesterday much to the dismissal of some people that want to buy into all these nut job conspiracy theories right now about this situation. The truth is we've got it in hand. We're totally in control. We're trying to find some reasonable people to pick up the pieces and move on with this country so we can go handle other stuff. And the rest of the world is calculating accordingly as well. All right, there's that. Real quick break. We'll come back after the top of the hour and get more of your phone calls in here, more headlines in here, whatever else. I'm trying my best not to talk about Eric Swalwell and his smarmy behavior, but it continues to press forward into the top of the headlines today just because of the sleaze factor and all these corrupt congressmen having to resign all of a sudden. 545-9950 if you want to get in on the show. Bring it. Leland Live, Talk 99.5, back here in just a minute.